everybody, this is Kenny. Welcome back to another edition of the Yak with Mac. This week we talk to Trayce Toles Williams, Senior Program Manager on the Retail Format team. We get into talking about linear careers and so much more. Listen in. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Yak with Mac. I have another phenomenal guest that I can't wait to share with you today. Prepare again to be inspired. And so I will introduce her in just a few seconds. Let me do my normal stuff here. So leaders, this is the place to be. This is where we want you to come to get encouraged and inspired so that you can be great influencers with your people day in and day out. Remember, the days are long gone where you can stand around telling people what to do. And so we want you to influence people and inspire them, but you can't do that if you're not inspired and encouraged. So this is a place to be, to come for that. Leaders, 15 minutes a day. Are you doing something that's helping with your development? Are you taking charge in your career? I have to tell you, I was on a call earlier today, and some of the things that we have coming up, that T-Mobile has coming up when it comes to helping you boost your career is spectacular. Stay tuned for that. I'm going to get one of those folks on with me. I promise sometime in the July timeframe. But you should be taking charge of your career right now. So do something. Whether you're watching this podcast, that's great. Watch others, listen to others, grab articles, whatever fits within your learning style. I encourage you to do something daily. Okay, I'm going to get to my guest. I have known this terrific leader for quite some time now. We were on the same team together a bit ago, and I really miss working with her because she inspired me every time we got to meet. She has just got so much to share. So I want to introduce and welcome to the podcast today, Trayce Toles Williams, Senior Program Manager on the Retail Format team. Tracy, welcome to the podcast. It is great to see
Kenny.
you and great to connect with you again. How you doing?
I'm great. It's so good to see your face.
No, thank you. Thanks so much. Let's get right to it because there's a lot I want to cover with you because there's just so much inspiration that comes out of you all the time. And I know that leaders are really going to benefit from a lot of things that you're going to tell us today. But first, let's start here. I want the audience to really get to know you. Walk us through your career journey. It's been a really interesting one. And you can go back as far as you want to go back. So walk us through your career journey and what got you to this point.
Yeah, Kenny, that's a great question. It's interesting because you grow up, you go to college, and you continue your education, and you think like you know what you want to be. I really never knew what I wanted to be, right? Like I knew I had certain interests, I knew I was good at certain things, and that really kind of drove where I am to today. So I like to say I'm a recovering educator. I was an educator, I was a teacher for almost 8 years. And during that time, that's when I really understood the value of, knowledge transfers to young folks that help them to see more and bigger for themselves. But in that space, it was so much like red tape and so much, I guess, struggle from an administrative standpoint that I said, what can I do to really ease this for teachers, for the community, for the learners that I was serving? And that really moved me into this, after that point, into this nonprofit space with the Chick-Fil-A Foundation. I shared that because it was during that time in my life, Kenny, that I really got to see what resources are out there for communities and like bridging that gap. And I was in the mix of that. I was able to really help bridge those gaps. That inspired me, and I really thought that there may be some way to continue to like pull in this facilitator love that I had for knowledge shares and for helping individuals see more for themselves and connecting resources. I jumped out. I moved into a training role at that point because I wanted to see, how can I really hone in on those skills that the excitement that I get when people get those aha moments. And so I jumped ship. I left Chick-fil-A. I said, I'm going to try something very new and very bold for myself. And I moved into a leadership development instructor facilitator space with KFC, and then ultimately with Sprint, now the new T-Mobile. I share all those like points across my journey, my career journey, because I never really said I want to be X. I just always knew that there were some things that I loved about Tracy that I knew I could bring to others. So, connecting, bringing information to life in a really cool, dynamic way, showing that empathy and like that caring, all of those, pieces kind of moved into where I am now. So now I'm with the new T-Mobile. I'm still in training. I still like to say I have a training hat on. But I work with the retail format team on the signature, specifically our signature stores in the country, and I love it. I really do love all the hats that I wear within this role now.
Wow. And I think about the background that you have there is kind of a little bit of everything. And I want you to talk about that in a second because you said something really interesting to me the other day. But I want to go back for a second. Here you are working for Chick-fil-A, one of the best known companies when it comes to customer service, customer innovation. And obviously, within that space in the restaurant space, but you made a decision to leave, and you've told me before that there was just this moment, for you. Could you share that?
Yeah. It's fun to think about that moment in my life, though, that what really drove me to taking, I would say, a leap of faith. So you may know, but the Chick-fil-A corporate office is based in Atlanta, Georgia, and where it actually sits and where my office was, I had a direct view of the Atlanta Hartsfield Jackson International Airport, the busiest airport in the world. And
Yeah.
I've always loved planes and the miracle of flight. But this window view, bay view that I had was a flight path. Some days it'd be taking off, and then some days the planes would be landing. And Kenny, I can remember just sitting there at my desk and just daydreaming, dreaming of bigger and better. And I used to say, man, I wish I could just travel the country, travel the world, and take my talents outside of just this space of Atlanta, Georgia. I'd never lived anywhere else. I'd gone to undergrad, grad school, life was happening in Atlanta. And it was just the symbol, being able to symbolize like what it meant for me to leave and to take this journey and this step. It was just so symbolic for me sitting there looking out the window. So at that point, I started really like understanding, what does it mean to take your career to the next level? Like, what does it mean to leverage the degrees that I had, maybe do some additional trainings, just take some risk to get to that next level of where I thought development was happening for me.
Wow, I got goosebumps the other day when you told me that, and I got goosebumps again just now because it is that's such one of those moments that you describe so well for us and you capture. And there's so many leaders I know that'll be watching this and are feeling the same exact way. And so where is my next path? What do I do? And I'm with this huge company, and there's so many different paths that I can take, but I'm comfortable here. And you not only did you leave Chick-fil-A, but you also moved to the other side of the country. You moved all the way out to
I
Phoenix,
did.
and that took so much courage, but that took so much foresight, to do that, and that's so encouraging. And it's worked out for you. Any lessons that you've learned along the way?
That's a great question, Kenny, because there's so many lessons that I learned along the way. And I reflect back and I think, and when I shared this story with others, I'm like, it sounds great. It sounds like, oh, I made this decision to, take my career and take my life by its reins and like do something. It was scary. Like I was scared probably majority of the time that I was making those decisions, there, days that would happen where I was thinking like, was this the right decision? Should I have stayed? And I'll be honest, there are times where I'm like, I still question, like, did I make the right decision? But I really honor the present where I am now. And in that honoring, I have to be okay and I have to allow for that rest to happen within me to say, you made these decisions and here we are in the present, enjoy it. And so, yes, those were just some of the lessons that I learned. Just enjoy the present because those decisions got you here. Enjoy it.
Wow. Wow. That's some really, really sound advice. Let's jump because there was a few other really interesting things you said the other day. I've always told you this a million times. I felt you were a great leader. You've got a very unique leadership style. And one of the things that I loved hearing about the other day that I wasn't as aware of is that you do a lot of leadership stuff outside of T-Mobile right now that's really helping you even when you come back, to work the next day. Talk a little bit about that, of some of the things that you've gotten yourself involved in that is outside of T-Mobile.
Yeah, I love that question, Kenny, because you know, life is in my opinion, life is very cyclical, right? Like life just doesn't happen in silos. It's like you are able to take certain skills and apply them into other facets of your life. And what I've understood about this is that the more you do that, the better you get at those skills, right? And so one of the opportunities that I've really jumped all the way in for is my sorority organization known as Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. It is a lifelong commitment, but in recent months, in the recent years that I've been in the organization, I've really taken on more leadership responsibility and specifically leading a group of young ladies that are really looking to develop their leadership skills within the organization, within the sorority. And so I've seen a lot of what I've learned from my, more of my professional space and being able to take those skills and really apply them in this, extracurricular, but very community-based organization that I've, serving with. Another piece that I've really jumped into living here in Phoenix, moving from Atlanta and, really not having like all of I lived there my whole life. So I had tons of connections through school, through my workspace. I've really planted myself in Phoenix and connected with the local school district that I live in. I don't have any kids in the school district, but I've really embedded myself in how can I make this community, this space for our kids the best ever. Like I want to solve the question of, when community members, take their kids to other uh, areas, that may not be as underserved as in this area. I want to solve that question. Like, why? This is your community. Let's make our schools just as great as any community out there in the state. So, just a few things, but I really have seen the benefits of reapplying those skills in other areas.
Yeah. And I'm making a connection now. I can remember one of the first things that you jumped into when you were the regional training manager out west was you did this whole emerging leaders thing. And you mentioned that to me the other day that you're doing that with a lot of kids. Talk a little bit about that and that connection that really started at Sprint, now T-Mobile, and now you're impacting young ladies and young men's lives.
Yeah, Kenny, it's really a what I've been able to gain from that type of experience. So the program that we are initiating through the organization, it's really about highlighting areas that you're great at, right? And then also looking at areas that, you may not be as great at, but at least exposing you to where to find those resources to help you to grow as a leader. Mentorship has been something and advocacy has been something that has really helped me and I know the benefits of it. And so in my, community impact work, I want to make sure that I'm voicing that I'm sharing the testimony of, when you're able to connect with um, established leaders, that helps you as a future leader in your preparation, in your journey.
Wow. That is just that's so awesome. Um, there's a documentary that you mentioned to me the other day that you've also gotten involved in. And so talk a little bit about that for a few minutes.
Yeah, that's great. I totally forgot we talked about that. So, um, right now there has been a uh, just in my own personal life, looking at um, this idea of one day becoming a mother, right? And you kind of get sold like it's easy as a kid, or as a teenager in sex ed,
Mhm.
it's not easy. And so with this, in this journey to motherhood, I've really used my platform within the organization as African American female to actually bring a new film, a new documentary by Chiquita Lockley, who is a Spelman graduate. And this film is is entitled Eggs Over Easy. In this film, though, she really highlights some of the disparities within the African American female community when it comes to this idea of fertility and talking about it. Well, I'm so passionate about this documentary that we were able to provide it free of charge for the greater Phoenix, Arizona area. But it wasn't just the fact that we were able to bring it to our community, but it was more in my pain and in some of the struggles that we've been through over the last several years in this fertility space. I wanted to use like that platform, that voice, to help others. And so I'm so excited. It's May 1st. It will be happening May 1st here in Phoenix. It's virtual. But I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to, bridge that gap for others and help them to maybe answer some questions that they may have out there too.
Yeah, and that's all leadership, Tracy, and that is awesome. That is awesome, and it's not easy to share your own journey, and then but you're committed to sharing your own journey through all this mentorship and everything that you're doing to really help others and lift others up, and that's never an easy thing, but it seems to come very natural to you, which is unbelievable. I want
Thank
to
you.
I want to shift gears a little bit because. I'm picturing that we have a lot of retail leaders out there right now. We have folks that are in headquarters listening, watching, folks that are in the care organization, business organization that have direct reports right now and really feel strongly, or maybe they don't, that they need to continue to move up,
Mhm.
and continue to have direct reports. You've taken a couple of different paths at times in your career. And you mentioned this to me the other day, and I love there was a couple of words that you used that I really love, but I want to hear you talk about how you've benefited even from kind of taking a different way in what you described your career as being.
Yeah, it so again, going back to, the truths of elementary school, where you somehow, and I don't know if you've thought this, but somehow you get this idea in your head that your career is very linear, right? That
Yeah.
it's, you do this and then you get this and then you move to this and then you're promoted to this and then you retire somewhere. At some point someone told us that it's not true. It took me years to understand this. It took me years to recalibrate how I thought about career projection or trajectory, right? And so in learning how that goes, it really just kind of does like this, right? There are times where you'll have like the income that you want, and there's times where you have the responsibility. Sometimes they won't add up or match. But it's all in growth, right? And what I've really appreciated about this part of my career path or career journey is that, I this role does not have any direct reports, but I am responsible for so many elements and points in our team effort, right? And that for me is such a critical piece of the bigger picture. Um, right now I am kind of selfish. Like I am able to really work back with my leaders to help grow some of those skill sets that I knew that I was seeking from a business acumen standpoint or from an operational standpoint, or now within specifically within my role within service and repair and devices and understanding accessories. I mean, I eat, breathe, and sleep wireless at this point. Previously, yeah, I did too, but it was more from a very training focused. And so now I'm able to be selfish. I'm able to really focus in on some of these skills that I've always wanted to acquire from a business standpoint, that now I really just get to do that. Um, and because I have had direct reports in the past, now that I am now, that team member, I my the way that I empathize and listen to my leaders is it's different than it was 5, 10 years ago. I mean, I get it now. I'm like, me first, let me help. How can I jump in? What can I do to help ease your burden or ease, some of the tasks that they have, because I've been there, I've experienced it. But now it's like, how can I be that much better of a team member for this greater team effort? So those are just some of the learning.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you're exactly right. We're still conditioned that way, that it's just these steps, right, that we have to take. But and sometimes that works out great. Not,
Yeah.
but also we sometimes there might be something else out there for us. And for folks listening, and you start to think about, and I want to get into a little bit more of what you do now, because I'm going to ask you to give some advice to retail leaders out there, because I know that's been primarily where you've come from. But when you think about, there could be something else out there that you could miss, right? Think
Mhm.
about what your resume, and I know that's not your end game, or what you're striving for, but think about what your resume looks like right now, with all of the different skills that you've acquired over these last couple of years, just by really taking chances and diving in and saying, you know what, this could be something new that I'll learn, and just not following that traditional path. I think that's
Mhm.
absolutely awesome. Um, so, two or three pieces of advice that you would give young emerging leaders out there right now. It doesn't necessarily have to be retail, because that's not our total audience. But what's a couple of things that you see and hear? And I know we've all been working at home, right? But you're still very much connected, especially doing what you do now with the format team. What are two or three things that you think that leaders may miss and that you'd like to see them do better at?
Oh, wow. Um, wow, that's a profound question, because I think as emerging leaders, we're just too hard on ourselves, right? Like
Hmm.
one of my leaders, Lauren Hayes, she's actually my director, and I appreciate her so much for these very words that I say to myself probably every day. Um, Tracy, are you giving yourself some grace? Are you being kind? And not that, I'm asking myself that to others, but like really, are you being kind to yourself? So I would extend that same advice to, young leaders, emerging leaders, is, when the going gets tough, and the deadlines are crunching in, and the people piece is like kind of just on your back. In those moments, take some time away to just ask, are you being kind to yourself? Because often we're having all of these inside narratives happening, and we are beating ourselves up because, oh, I didn't study enough, or maybe I didn't prepare enough, or did I send that, the right way? And it's this constant like anxiousness of, did I do it the right way? When really it's all the right way. It's all in growth. Even if you get some scathing feedback, it's still feedback. It's still for your growth. How will you use it? So the growth is going to happen, but in those moments, are you pausing to just ask yourself, am I being gracious with how I'm approaching the situation? Am I being kind to myself as I'm going through this tight deadline or this, major meeting. I would say that. And then the second thing I would say, and it kind of plays into that, Kenny, is it's all a journey. It's
Mm,
all a journey. It is one big, long journey, and hopefully it's long, right? Hopefully we are granted grace enough to have a long journey. But it's all a journey. It's not a start and a stop. It's all in the process. And I think once I really understood that, from a professional and a life standpoint, things kind of started making more sense. Even in the nonsense of it, it made more sense because
mm,
it's not to be looked at as a isolated event, but something that either will help you in the future, possibly help someone else in the future, possibly even help your legacy, your grandkids, your people that aren't even created yet. So those would be probably the two biggest things that I would share.
doesn't get better than that. That is absolutely awesome. Well, hey Tracy, so I'm going to leave it there because that was really really powerful, and I only have one more question for you. But I know you're going to say yes. Would you come back on the show with me?
You know I would. Yes,
Okay, I know I can call
absolutely.
you on you anytime. I just I want leaders to really look at you as such a great example of that. It can go a lot of different ways, and I love what you said about it's a journey. It's absolutely a journey. Just phenomenal, phenomenal advice. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep me posted on your career. Um, I'm gonna encourage you to post, and I'll post it for you. You said May 1st is that documentary that is launching.
Yes, yes.
I think there are a lot of people that will really, really inspire. So thank you so much for taking the time. I
Thank
know
you,
how busy
Kenny.
you are. So thanks for taking the time. We'll close here, folks. So share this when you see it, please, especially with young emerging leaders. But this was for everybody. So this is Kenny with Tracy. This has been the Yak with Mac. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you, Tracy.
Thanks, Kenny. Thank you so much.